When everything on your plate feels urgent and it becomes impossible to know what to handle first, that constant pressure is exactly what keeps nonprofit women leaders stuck in survival mode, reacting instead of leading. And today we're going to slow down the noise. We're going to look
Mhm.
at a simpler way to focus on what truly matters so you can make decisions with clarity and confidence. And we're going to do that today with a portion of my friend Kimberly's flow framework, the focus part. Kimberly, your flow framework, let me see if I can go through it. Number one, focus on what matters most. Number two, lead with integrity. Number three, own the culture. And number four, work for well being, which we had a wonderful conversation last week about.
Mhm.
Helps leaders lead with resilience so they can prevent burnout in themselves and in their teams. Okay,
Mhm.
so that's what we're talking about today. But before we do that, let's stop and talk about why on earth does everything feel like a priority in the nonprofit sector?
Yeah, I mean, hi, Kathy. It's so nice to be here again with you. And I think it's because we are passion-driven individuals. We feel like the stakes are so high. We literally are saving lives. And when we are driven by passion, when we have such high expectations on us, we often, and we see it time and time and time again, compromise our own health and well-being. We fall on the sword too often in charity, as certainly I know I did in the charitable sector. And I think this whole flow framework is a reminder and a tool that can be used to help us understand that when we truly focus on the important things and we stop this frantic hamster wheel of this hustle culture, and we pause, we can have greater impact and bigger results. So
Yeah, and I think it's hard for people to see that with the noise, right? There are
mhm,
so many competing priorities. We're
mhm,
drowning in work. We're overwhelmed. And, I was talking with somebody who's been in her role for 11 years, and she said, we just keep getting more expectations, but we're required to do it with less. That
mhm,
more
mhm,
for less is that, ever ending thing. Yeah, it's funny when you think back to, oh, computers are going to make our lives easier. Just like, washing machines are going to make our lives easier.
mhm,
Nothing's changed. We've
mhm,
just filled it with other things. And the nonprofit sector keeps shrinking in funding, in qualified staff sometimes because we're losing a lot of the good people. And so
mhm,
there's more and more and more that's being put on us, especially as leaders. And it's all a priority.
mhm. And it's not just our sector. I think it is a global trend, and let's just remind ourselves of that. So if you are feeling like you're the only person who's brittle and thin and stretched at the moment, you're not alone. This is recognized by the World Health Organization as overwhelm and loneliness and the constant doing more with less, and the permanent crisis that we're living in. This we're living in a very turbulent times. So if you're feeling it, chances are that your other colleagues and your friends and other people are also feeling this way. And in fact, the data proves it. So um,
Before we dive into your framework, Kimberly, introduce yourself. Tell everybody what you know about this.
hi, well, I'm Kimberly McKenzie, and it's nice to be here. I am a recovering charity executive, a consultant, a facilitator, and a speaker. And I work with leaders in our sector, but also other sectors, to help them lead with integrity and purpose, and align their actions with their values, and to find flow. And so there are a number of ways we do that individually, with teams, and with organizations. And I live in snowy, Christmassy Stratford, Ontario, but my practice is mostly virtual and global.
Ah, and when women struggle with the overwhelm and they're drowning in their work, uh, and feeling that lack of competence and confidence, I help them shake that off, build that level of confidence that they need so that they can lead with integrity, so that they can feel good about, leadership should feel good. It shouldn't feel shitty all the time.
Mhm.
And they can still have energy left for the rest of their lives. And so I do that through teaching, coaching, and mentoring women leaders in the nonprofit sector. And yes, my work is all virtual as well. So it's exciting to be here. We worked through 6 series of my framework around the infinite leadership loop. We are now working through the sections of Kimberly's framework. And Kimberly, catch me, everybody up. I'll say it wrong, so I'll let you do it. We've already covered which parts of the framework.
Well, we talked about the case for resilience, and we talked about why it's important. We talked about why well-being is important, and also how to build resilient teams. And now we're diving in to focusing on what matters, which is the first part of the 4-part framework.
All right. Tell us why we need to focus on what matters and how
well,
we're going to do it.
Yeah. I wish that I had a tool like this. It took me almost 30 years to develop this thing, but it makes so much sense to me, because if we do focus on what matters, then we can have more autonomy and trust within our teams. We collaborate more. We are more aligned, and we are leveraging our strengths, which all of that work, instead of draining us, becomes energizing and more inspiring. And so it really is about putting your own oxygen mask on first, so that you can then help your team do the same for themselves. And then we can lead healthier, more abundant lives.
And if people are following along and you have some thoughts on this, tell us about what's going on for you. What are the priorities that you're struggling to prioritize? Why does it feel like they all feel like they're on fire? And if you have any ideas or solutions or resources, share them in the comments as well.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm talking to clients, I'm often talking about the sort of whacking the mole, right? Mm-hmm. The game at the fairgrounds, and these moles are popping up, and that's all we're doing. We're just reacting, and we're just whacking, meeting and email, and running here and going to this meeting, and we're just whacking moles. Mm-hmm. And if we pause, which is the first part of my framework that we were talking about, it's time to look at, is it the right time to be whacking those moles? Mm-hmm. Are they my moles to even be whacking?
Are they my moles to whack?
Are they mine? Yes.
Such a good question.
Yes. Or is it the right time to whack those moles?
Right.
Like, we don't even know. We're just reacting, right? Yeah. And if we don't pause and start to look at, why should I be focusing on what matters most? What even matters most? Like, I don't know, because I'm just in reactionary mode.
There are a couple of questions that I think can help folks to figure out which moles they should be whacking. And one of them is, who owns this problem? Mm-hmm. What if I do nothing? Pausing and really thinking about, okay, do I even need to take any action on this, or will this problem just go away? And will it matter 5 years from now? Yeah. And I think those 3 questions can really help you get perspective on how much of a physical and emotional investment you need to make. But, I understand that when you are leading an organization, especially at this time of year, we kind of go on autopilot, and we feel like we need to do everything all of the time. But your pause is essential. And in addition to that, I think if we have a personal mission statement that really anchors us in our purpose, and it can act as a compass, just like we talk about values as a compass. When we really know what the important things are, then it can help us make decisions about what we can let go of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. But talk to me more about the mission statement, because I don't know about the people listening, but I've been in far too many organizations where there's this lovely mission statement that we all bust our butts in a boardroom or conference room crafting, that gets stuck in a binder and never sees the light of day again. And mm-hmm. now you're telling me I need to craft a personal mission statement? Mm-hmm. Like, what does that mean?
I can tell you what mine is. And I created it maybe 15 years ago. Wonderful, generous, kind man named Mark Herlahai inspired it at an AFP conference, and also a woman by the name of Rosetta Thurman, whose session I attended. And she took us through the exercise, and my mission statement is that when I die, I want my children to think of me as a hero who had a positive impact on the world.
Mm.
So that really helps anchor me in how I show up every day. And I was inspired by that, by Mark's, who's I recorded this in a podcast, a long forgotten and who knows where it is, podcast. Uh, his is to have a positive impact on every person he interacts with. You know, and he really truly does. And then once we know, you know, I do an exercise with my clients where it's a bit of a meditation. I talk them through to really think about, fast forward to the end of your life, what are people thanking you for?
Yeah. Mine is not so much a mission statement, but that I've crafted in that way. But I have this really strong belief that my role here is to change the face of leadership for the next generation.
Nice.
That we should not be experiencing leadership in the same way we've been. And I want my granddaughter's generation to walk into leadership and feel a different experience than I and the people I'm feeling are feeling.
You know, I really love that, Kathy, because you show up to do that every single day.
Yeah, I do.
And I really wish, you know, I had a boss many years ago. We then fast forward to just a couple of years ago, we were serving on the same board of directors, and she actually said to me that she apologized to me and said that she felt like she could have done more to support me.
Yeah.
At the time when I was a struggling executive director.
Yeah.
But the system, the patriarchal system that she was living in, wasn't set up. She was fighting it just the same as I was, right? And so, and it's only hindsight years later where we went, oh, we could have, if we had just supported each other better, we could have made things less painful. So I love that for you.
Again, if you're listening and you have a mission statement, pop it in. But my next question is, so what? How does that help us prioritize? What do we do with that mission statement?
Well, it helps me when I'm making decisions. If I know how I'm showing up, then it helps me stay on track, because the world will constantly try to distract you from it.
Yeah.
And then we can live and work with more intention, and then there's more calm. And then all of a sudden, when there's more intention and there's more calm, there's more space.
Yes. Okay. Now tell me how do values fit into all of this?
Yeah. You know, I'm going to tell you a little story. Is that okay?
Absolutely. We love stories.
Did I tell this story last time? I don't know if I did, but so I was grocery shopping, and I was pulled into the parking lot, and I was trying to park, and there was a car right there in the middle of the parking lot, and I kind of went around him and wasn't quite sure what was happening. And I got out, and there was an older man who had just torn the front corner right off of somebody's BMW. Like, it was just demolished. I don't even know how he did it. And he went and he looked, and then he got back in his car and he drove away. And the whole time while I was grocery shopping, I thought, holy smokes, somebody's day was just ruined. Like, that's horrible. And there was really very little I could do. And then when I finished, I got out and I was going back to my car after my groceries. I saw the couple there whose car it was, and they were distraught beside their car. And I said, oh, I'm really sorry that happened to you. And they said, did you see anything? And I immediately said, no. I know, I totally lied. And I went back to my car, and just physically in my body, I felt like anxiety in my chest and a knot in my stomach.
Yeah.
And I took a deep breath, and I went back and I said, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I lied to you. That's that little girl who's scared of getting into trouble, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why I lied to you. I actually did see something, and I can't really help you, but if you need a witness or anything, here's my contact information. And guess what? I physically felt more relaxed and calm,
Yeah.
right?
So the value, this is one of the important pieces that women leaders need to identify is the naming the value, honesty, right? What
Mhm.
does honesty mean? For some people, honesty is I don't need to tell them because I can't make a difference. That's okay. If the groceries under the cart, they miss it, not my problem. Some people believe that's their version of honesty. I'm still being honest. I didn't lie. I didn't, right? Um, and for you, that honesty is important. And so you and I both do work with our clients to name their values, to understand their values. I have a whole course where we walk through naming it, giving it a definition, understanding how to make value-based decisions, how to use values. And to your point, there's a whole section in there around the ickiness we feel in our body or the alignment we feel in our body.
Mhm.
That's how we learn to make decisions with our values is by tuning into our body. I was
Mhm.
talking with a client, and one of her top values was grace. And she wanted to treat her team and her organization with grace and all of the people that her team was working around. And I said to her, are you treating yourself with grace?
Mhm.
And she's like,
Yeah.
holy Hannah.
Yeah. What does that look like for you? I have a strategic planning client who we're, of course, going to dig into organizational values work in the new year. But she said, does that apply to the team? Like, does the team have to um, agree to these values that the board agrees
Yeah,
to?
yeah,
And I think that there's like three different tiers, and hopefully they intersect, right?
yeah,
But we all know and are familiar with the idea of organizational values, and that is decided by a board of directors in the strategic planning process, and then it's operationalized with staff. But then we also have a layer of values of staff. Some people call it a manifest or a covenant, or you can
yeah,
call it whatever you want. But it's a promise to each other for how you treat each other, how you work together, and that's internally for the team. But
yeah.
then individually, we also have our own personal values, and those values act as a compass whenever we need to make decisions about anything.
Mhm. I had a client ask me, 2 clients asked me this week, "How do I know when it's time to leave the organization?"
Mm,
And, the one client, sent me this really long email with all of these things that are going on, and it's lack of alignment.
mm,
If this value is being pushed on, if this value is being squished, if they're not honoring this value, and it's not just like a tick list, yes, yes, no.
yeah,
One value something might happen like, um, really extreme case, they want you to kill somebody. Nope, done, can't work for that organization.
right.
Okay, they want you to maybe slide funds a little bit this way in the budget. Oh, that
Mhm,
gets a little bit grayer then, right? And
mm,
that's when you got to go back to your body and feel your moral compass like ding
mhm,
ding 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 something's wrong here. And that alignment or disalignment, unalignment is telling you something's wrong there and your values are not being honored. And so that helps you then decide next steps, priorities. I
mhm.
need to prioritize this conversation with my funder, with my board, because it's not aligning. Rather than going ahead and developing the communication that's going to go out. No, no,
Right.
no, that's not the next step. Before you go there, you've got to figure out what to do. In
And
terms of, oh, go ahead.
I just want to also acknowledge, though, because I did some values work with a colleague of ours. Her name is Mimosa Kabir, and she really helped me see that there are, you know, you and I carry a great deal of privilege,
Mm,
and especially if you're in a leadership position. But if you are from a traditionally marginalized community, or you're a middle management, you may need to live in a place of discord. And then if you don't have the privilege of being able to leave your job or
yep.
influencing change within the organization, understanding how you can kind of fill the bucket up outside of work is also a survival strategy for that.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Okay, let's bring it back to prioritizing your workload. You got a massive to-do list, right?
Mhm.
Things are on there. We have a comment. Mimosa is awesome.
She is.
Ah, I wanted to talk quickly about, let's see if I can pop this on the screen. We may disappear, Kimberly. We've disappeared. The urgent important matrix. Are you aware of
Love
this?
that. I love it.
Yeah. So Eisenhower matrix, urgent important matrix. What happens for many of us is that we spend a lot of time focusing again on whacking moles. It feels urgent, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes it's important, but it may not be as important to us as if we actually slowed down and did the work. So
Mhm.
again, stopping and doing that pause piece, which I teach in my framework, the infinite leadership loop.
Mhm.
Pause, drop down all your tasks, and then look at what's important and urgent, not important and not urgent. Those things you can delegate.
Mhm.
Not important, not urgent, like stop doing them. Some of the paperwork and meetings we do, guys, like just take them off our list. We
Mhm.
do far too much of that stuff, right? And as a leader, I'm hoping you can influence some of that. But where we don't spend a lot of time is the important but not urgent. This is where, getting ready for accreditation, pulling together notes on people's performance reviews, even though they're not done until 6 months from now. That kind of stuff suddenly becomes urgent down the road. But if we don't schedule time to do that important but not urgent stuff, it'll never get done. Anything you want to add, Kimberly? I'll take us off
Well,
here.
I use this framework for to-do lists.
Yes.
And the goal is every single day to try to spend more time in that quadrant.
Yes. It's the training stuff, it's the thinking, it's the strategy, the planning, all of those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I feel like I was interrupting you.
No. Well, I was just going to say we don't do that unless we slow down and be more intentional. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's part of this framework that we're teaching is really helping you be that intentional leader.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm at a complete loss as to what to say. I'm sorry about that, but uh, I had a client who came into a coaching session a while back who had just had a really upsetting moment and yelled at her staff. And
Mm,
it was before an event, and she just came in feeling ucky.
yeah.
And she knew that she needed to, she had displayed her humanity and her stress, and she had projected that onto somebody else who then projected it onto somebody else. And then, so she had to take a step all the way back before a gala event and
Yeah.
apologize and create the calm and take responsibility for not being the best version of herself that day. And that, I think, speaks to, it's another example of how you were mentioning your client,
Yeah.
and it shows up with grace. But it's that self-awareness, right? Piece. It's this kind of work that
Yeah.
is important work, so that you do have the resilience we talked about in our last LinkedIn Live, so that you can respond to the urgent and changing needs of your organization, of your family, and of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as leaders, what we often get caught up in is the task stuff, the do. And you just gave a really good example of the relationship stuff. We don't often prioritize relationships. I did a really quick video this morning for my uh, TikTok and Reels. And basically, the exercise that I said was, you've got all these things to do. Stop, grab a piece of paper. And the important part of this exercise is don't think. Do not think. Just respond with your intuition and write down the most important thing for you to do in your organization right now that you think. Just quickly write it down, task wise. And then the most important thing, relationship wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then
Mm-hmm.
the most important thing, task wise at home.
Mm-hmm.
Then the most important thing, relationship wise at home or in your personal life. And then number 5, what's the most important thing you need to do for yourself in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
Write all 5 of those things down. like in a millisecond. Do not overthink it, right? Then ask yourself, what would my future self, that better version of me who's better at prioritizing, say is the most important thing to do? And again, in a millisecond, you're going to know. However, there's one more piece. Then, out of the rest of those things on the to-do list that you really highlighted, is there something I can do to move the needle on those in 60 seconds or less? So maybe the most important thing is working on the grant proposal, but I send an email to my colleague and say, hey, can we schedule some time to talk? Or I quickly text my spouse and say, hey, love you, honey. Or I run to the washroom first and grab something to eat, right? So you might cover all of those really quick, but it's tuning into your intuition and your gut to go, what is most important?
Absolutely. And because we're not built like our bodies physically are not meant to have that, is it cortisol pumping through us all the time? Like we can't, we need it in, when a saber-toothed tiger might be, chasing us, but we can't always be fleeing from a saber-toothed tiger. And that's one of the things that I worry about, is that we are in a fight or flight mode.
Always.
And
that's the other reason why this work is incredibly important, because when you're in that stress mode, we've talked about this a zillion times, you do not have the same ability to think clearly. You don't have the same compassion. You're not having the same level of patience, and we've all been there. You're not able to think strategically. You're not able to see, like, peripherally what's going on. And you're just whacking moles. And so that's not the way your future self wants you to lead. That's not the way your current self wants you to lead, right? That's why you feel icky, and why your shoulders are tense and your stomach's in knots and you've got an ulcer and you've got a rash, and
and this is research. I mean, what I love about your framework and what I love about my framework is that
they fit together.
They offer practical tools, because there's so much data and so much research from multiple sectors around this is not an okay way to live every day of our lives. But there isn't a lot of stuff that says, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? How do we change the system? And these are two things that have practical tools to change the system. I think it's just hard to create this space and prioritize it, or to even understand. I'm working on a little 10-minute speech on body chemistry, and I have written about this in my blog, which people can see, or we'll put the link in there. But just the understanding of how our body works and how we can use things like gratitude journal to change the chemistry in our body. But it might not be a gratitude journal. And when you are caught up in the stress of this time of year, and somebody says, you need to take 20 minutes and sit down and write a gratitude journal, I mean, I just want to punch them in the face. But the thing is, whether it's a gratitude journal or that chocolate's in your desk or whatever it is that's going to give you that boost of serotonin and the oxytocin, figure out what that is and try to take 30, 60 seconds to do that.
I just popped that link of your blog in the comments. Couple other links I popped in there. One is a values verification exercise that I teach. So if you want to go do that, it's free. It's the first lesson in a course I teach called Values Verification. So I've put the link in for the training library, which is my membership site, which has all of those courses in it. The other course in there is a course called The Emotions of Time Management. It is actually not that we don't have time, typically. There is a lot on our to-do list, 100%. But we're often delaying that conversation with somebody, the performance review, because we really don't want to do it. We're putting off writing that grant because we actually don't know how to do it. We are avoiding that thing because we know it's going to have this result. We struggle to set those boundaries, and we spend too much time supporting and helping people and not delegating because we're people pleasers, right? Or perfectionists. There are other things going on, and the better you understand your values and your beliefs, and your ethics and your morals, and tune into what's going on in your body and your emotions, the better you're going to be able to manage the time that you have, right? And it's actually not managing the time, it's managing the priorities. We can't manage time. That's a misnomer. But you
Right.
will manage your priorities and your relationships and your energy in a way different way when you step back and look at your priorities through a different lens.
And they're going to shift and change over time. And that's something we
100%.
also need to acknowledge. We are always evolving and emerging into the next best version of
Yes.
ourselves,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So who I am today is not who I was 25 years ago.
No.
And so that's the work we need to constantly go, okay, so within
I
this
have to read the sticky note I have on my desk now.
what?
Knowledge is power. Actually, knowledge is powerful, but only when you apply it, and then it becomes wisdom.
Oh, I love that.
But that's the thing. We have a ton of tools and resources.
Yeah.
But if we're not pausing and slowing down and doing this work,
Yeah.
because that's what, when you say focus, it's about intentional leadership. And that's the key that both of you and I want to hammer home is lead with intention and everything's going to turn around.
So personal mission statement, what is your purpose? How do you show up in the world? What kind of impact do you have on people around you? And are your actions aligned with your values? And if they're not, what tweaks can you make every day to get just a little bit closer to that?
Yes. All right. We're going to move on to the next step of Kimberly's framework. I'm putting you on the spot in half a second, Kimberly.
Okay.
In the new year, we're going to come back in the new year and we're going to go to the next part of your framework, which is
owning the culture.
There you go.
So leaders set the tone. How do you create space for inclusion and belonging? How do you welcome feedback? How do you take care of your team? How do you set boundaries? And how to encourage curiosity?
Your vibe impacts your tribe.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah. If you got a cold, the flu bugs are going everywhere. And if you're a toxic leader, the toxic bugs are going everywhere. So yeah, we're going to talk about culture in the new year. Stay tuned. Anything else you want to add, Kimberly?
Thanks for doing this, Kathy. And check out your toolkit on your website because you have some incredible resources that you make available to people. And I want them to be used.
Awesome. And yeah, there's links in the notes. If you're missing anything that we said, just message either of us or comment, and we'll be there to help you out. Go make the rest of your day awesome, and we'll see you with Kimberly in the new year.